Hello, everyone. My name is Nathan Merkel. Welcome to Sports Stories, the podcast. This Sports Gator podcast will discuss different stories that we as humans have experience in, with, and through sports, hopefully providing context to the following questions. What makes sports so special? And how do sports impact us as humans? I'll dive headfirst into these questions through some critical conversations with a wide variety of guests on the show. With my current background in research and academia, I'll be looking to bridge the gap between practicality and research. I truly hope you enjoy the show. Thank you. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Sports Stories, the podcast. My name is Nathan Merkel, and I'm joined here by Jordan Harmon, the athletic director of Austin Peay State University. He was named athletic director on February 9th, 2026. He's a two-time APSU graduate and former Governor baseball student athlete who previously served as the interim and GM, leading revenue sharing and name, image, and likeness initiatives. Jordan, thank you so much for coming on to the episode.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Nathan. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, awesome. I'd love to start out with the first general question. I'd love to hear your story and how you sort of became the athletic director at APSU.
Yeah. I think one thing that's pretty neat about this podcast specifically is, I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, and you and I went to high school together.
Yeah.
So kind of a small world. 15 years later, here we are.
Right.
But, I was fortunate enough to get recruited to play baseball at Austin Peay, and I think that's really a huge part of where kind of the story began. And got to play my 4 years there, enjoyed every moment of it. Not really sure what I wanted to do once I graduated with a finance degree and just the real world is happening. So actually started as a radio salesman here in Clarksville, Tennessee. And 4 months in, one of my former bosses reached out and said, "Hey, would you be interested in fundraising for the athletics department?" It's like, I don't really know what that looks like. I've sold like baked goods and gold cards and
Girl Scout cookies.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it sounds great to be plugged back in and just see what that looks like. So I took that job as the director of development and kind of got in the fundraising realm and was fortunate enough to see some success and got promoted to assistant athletics director for fundraising. So oversaw all aspects of the fundraising and philanthropy department, and kind of was fortunate enough to continue to grow there and was the senior associate AD for all of external. So overseeing marketing, social media, digital media, corporate partnerships, tickets, things of that nature. Just surrounded by a lot of great people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they were doing a lot of really good things. We were doing some winning here and things were trending in the right direction. And from there, got promoted to deputy AD and chief revenue officer. And as you had mentioned, spent a lot of time with rev share, NIL, things of that nature. Still very involved with all things revenue. And then when my predecessor, Gerald Harrison, got the job at Marshall University, I was fortunate enough to get to serve as the interim. And over the next 7 months, just was a tryout, was a runway to see how it was going. And when all the dust settled, I was fortunate enough to hear my name called as the permanent athletics director. And very thankful for the opportunity from our President Licari, my wife. Gosh, I couldn't have done any of this without Reagan. But just an incredible experience. This is home. This is alma mater, but this is a special place to us. So it's pretty humbling to be here and leading this department.
That's really cool. I'd love to ask, when you were playing and you were playing at APSU baseball, did you ever have any sort of pipe dream that you'd be coming back as the AD? Was there any sort of other dream you had at the time?
Yeah. I didn't even know these jobs really existed. I knew we had an AD, but I didn't really know what that looks like. I knew there were aspects of the department, but I just thought it was checking boxes, right? So growing up in St. Louis, as you know, Edward Jones was huge. So with a finance degree, my goal and desire was to get into finance and be a investment banking or a personal financial manager or something along those lines, financial advisor, and had an opportunity to do so. And just the Lord had laid it on my heart to stay in Clarksville. So stayed there, and kind of the rest became history. Learned it as we went.
Wow. So it's really interesting. You said your background is mostly in finance and your area of interest is in finance. Do you think graduating with finance has helped you work in the realm that you're in now? Or do you think it maybe has sort of pigeonholed you at all?
I think it's definitely helped. I ended up getting a master's in management, which was very valuable as well. But today's day and age, we say all the time, our number one goal is a top tier student athlete experience, but our number one priority is generating revenue and understanding finances. Because without money, you can't achieve your goals. So having that background in finance and having that background in the understanding of the business world, I think was very advantageous as we kind of go into this new day and age of college athletics.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think, like we spoke about earlier, I think we're in sort of a very intriguing day and age with
Yeah.
college athletics. And I'd love to ask, like, was this AD job, like, did you ever think of it right now as like this dream job, or did you ever more so just kind of, like you said, it kind of just got almost handed to you in a sense, like because you got offered the interim and you just outperformed and you did great, and then you got basically named the AD. Was this something that you were like, oh, maybe this is the future for me, or did you actually have thoughts before that?
Definitely before that, about, oh gosh, 6 months or a year into my career. So I don't know, 8 years ago, I just fell in love with it. I loved the grind of it. I loved the impact you could make. I loved just being around student athletes and college athletics consistently. And to do it at my alma mater would have been something special. So, gosh, for probably the past 7, 8 years, I've had the desires and goals to not only be the athletics director at Austin Peay, but the hopes was to be the youngest AD in the country at the time. And fortunately, those both were able to come to fruition. I'd be remiss to say I did it all on my own. Like, there's so many great people, my predecessor, my current bosses, tons of mentors, tons of people surround me. Like, I believe in a position of leadership. Like, it's not their job to facilitate. To me, it's the other way around. And I've just got incredible people surrounding me.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool to hear. And one thing I actually wanted to ask you, it popped in my head. I remember hearing, I think it was within the last year or two, that a lot more ADs, maybe high school and or collegiate, are pursuing doctorate degrees.
Yeah.
Have you heard of this trend that more ADs are pursuing PhDs?
Yes, definitely. I think today is now such a day and age of constantly learning. So just having more background in education, just learning more through different programs and just understanding the world of college athletics and just the world in general has never been more important. I don't think a lot of ADs are looking to be Dr. So and so. I think they're still content with kind of the casual nomenclature that is college athletics, right? Just Jordan or whomever. But I just think it's the constant craving to be learning is just what's so important.
That's interesting. I agree with you. And being in a PhD program, I think it's really, there is this sort of like internal desire to want to learn. And I think there's a lot of people out there that have that same desire, but there's currently with the age of AI, I think it's
Yeah,
becoming a bit of a weird relationship where people want to learn, but I also think people may be going to the wrong places to learn,
right.
and they're using AI. I heard that people are using AI as Google now, and it's replacing Google. They're just going on to ChatGPT and typing in what they would do into Google instead. And so now it's just interesting to think about where AI is and what we think about education and all these things. And it's very prevalent with students and students using AI. But inside of academia, we kind of have this like thought that AI is not helpful and doesn't help critical thinking. But when you go into the industry and sports industry and athletics and registrations and all these things, like everybody is using AI. And so now it's like, well, in academia, how do I allow students to use it in a good way that will then prepare them to use it when they graduate and work in a job? And so like, do you use AI to help you like program or anything like that? Is there any situation where you rely on AI at all?
Yeah, I'll say a couple things to that because it's ironic you bring this up. I had a meeting about this a couple days ago, and I'll kind of start there. We're in such a weird time right now where you're exactly right. Like, we all use AI. A professor may write a syllabus in a structured plan through AI, but we challenge our students not to use it. And we definitely have to have a line of where there's still critical thinking, but also they should be able to use it. Because when I interview someone nowadays, I'm going to ask them what their background is in AI. Like that's where the world is going. It's not an exact science on this comparison, but is AI the new calculator, right? Like as we were growing up, oh, you're never going to have a calculator on you at all times. Well, yes, we do,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So it's kind of the same concept. So how do we set our students up for success while also letting them learn what's next to come? And with that being said, yeah, we use AI a lot. I mean, it can be as simple as fine tuning my email, or it can be more to the extreme of, hey, here's all our data analytics from how we played basketball the past 3 games. Tell us where we shoot the best, what our best 5 on the court are, like all those things. I mean, we sit here and talk about NIL, ref share, transfer portal, right? And like all those are the thing right now. So people are hiring general managers, but like we got to be really close to people starting to hire data analytics specialists, especially for certain sports, and that's all going to be AI driven. So yeah, we definitely use it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like actually gets me to think about the movie Moneyball. Have you seen that
Mm-hmm.
with Billy Bean? Like
Yeah.
I think this is like the moment. Like we're in that sort of bubble
Right.
right now where Billy Bean, like the god of Billy Bean is coming down and is
Yeah.
like, all sports are about to be so analytical that we're going to need basically like like a Billy Bean is going to need to be hired at every single university to
A
to
hundred
like
percent.
look at analytics, look at AI, look at all these things, and like I think
Oh,
it's really
the
interesting.
the Jonah Hill to Billy Bean is
Yeah.
like about to be one of the most important positions on so many programs and campuses. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think it'd be intriguing to see, like, do you think then in the next 5 years, you're going to start seeing a lot more like sport analytics intern or sport analytics coordinator for different athletic departments?
Absolutely. I mean, and it's so funny. You're like, it's like you saw my calendar. Like earlier this week, I guess Monday or Tuesday, I had another meeting with someone about, okay, do we have grad students or students in our doctoral program within our computer engineering program within our STEM college? Like, would they be interested in doing studies? Or is there faculty that's interested in doing studies and they get work release because they're assigned to a team? Like that's a real conversation that we're starting to have. So, all right, I don't really have the money for it yet because that takes time to get. But we've got people that are interested in doing it that need real world experience. Like, so how do we partner across campus? Because how valuable is that? And how much time does that save if you play a Thursday, Saturday basketball games, right? And you finish Thursday night, but you've got to watch 20 hours of film to get ready. What if someone just handed you a piece of paper that tells you everything you could watch in 20 minutes in 20 hours? I
Yeah.
mean, it's a game changer.
Yeah, it's nuts. It makes me think like you could easily just put the recording into a prompt, into like a
Right.
ChatGPT prompt and be like, tell me how many times the ball was shot beyond the 3-point line. How many did we make? How many did we miss? Just tell me that. And like you'd get it within five minutes instead
Right.
of watching the film itself. And so like having somebody analyze that, I think would be very beneficial. But then I have this question. Then do you think, because the movie in Moneyball, there's like sort of the old heads that are fighting against this analytical thought of like, oh, well, he's an old guy. He doesn't play well, all these things. But Billy was like, well, what does he do? And Jonah's like, he gets on base. And so it's like, okay, the analytics and all these things. But at what point will it be too analytical? And do you think being too analytical will take away from the human aspect of athletes instead of looking at them like, oh, his 3-point percentage is this, his 3 points, the free throw this, but what about the person? You know what I mean? Do you think there will be a drop off at some point?
I 100% think there will. And I think that's something you 100% need to be very cognizant of. I mean, as cliche as this is, but like, go look at Jimmer Fredette's March Madness run, right? Like, he didn't shoot like that all year. So the analytics are out the window on him or our guy Doug from St. Peter's, right? Like you think of these guys that have had moments, especially in like March Madness. That's not what they've done all year. So I mean, for lack of better terms, right? Like heat checks are real. Sometimes people are just so confident in the moment, so hot in the moment that they're going to defy all analytics. I don't know if you saw it, but High Point beat Wisconsin yesterday by 2 in overtime. And that was the first 2-pointer that guy for High Point that won the game, first one he made all year. Like, that, what analytic would predict
That's
that?
wild. Yeah, there's no Billy Bean out there would be like, put in this guy. And
Right.
He's never scored a point all year.
Correct. So, will it put you in better situations? 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Will it be wrong? 100%. I think another great example, right, is like shifting in baseball. You see them shift all the time. It doesn't always work.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when people do shift, you're going to have somebody come up and be like, oh, okay, I'm going to wait on it, wait on an extra millisecond and hit it to left field.
Right. Exactly.
So, yeah, it's really interesting. I think that's very intriguing of that sort of drop off of like how analytical our future and currently how analytical it's getting. Cause I feel like when we watch sports, like if we just put on any game or anything at all, like baseball, a general baseball game, it used to be for the game itself. But now we're like launch angle, velocity, speed, spin rate on the fastball, miles, all this stuff. And I'm like I just want to watch the guy throw a ball, dude. Like
that's all it is, right? Anything we watch now is, all right, how many yards is he thrown for? Interceptions, touchdowns, sacks, QBR, 3-point percentage, like layups, free throw percent, whatever, right? Like they just throw stats in our face all the time because it's intriguing.
Right. And I think that's like at some point, I feel like we're kind of like inadvertently training the next generation of sport fans to just be so analytical.
Right.
And like everybody's going to be an analyst now and be like, oh, well, the 3-point percentage doesn't match the free throw percentage. And I'm like, dude, what about like just the game?
Right.
What about the guy on the bench, like you said, that hasn't scored a point all year? Do we throw him in? Well, no, his ratio doesn't match the other. And I'm like, okay. Like, we need people that have like faith, in a player, and he did, and he put him in, and look, he won the game for him. That's it's crazy. It's wild to me.
Crazy.
So I wanted to ask you about life as an AD, and I wanted to ask you one of these questions of what's some challenges that you currently face, just like in general as an AD, and then I'll probably ask some further questions after that. But I'd love to hear some challenges that you face currently.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenges right now, right, are the new day of college athletics, right? How do you find consistent success in a day and age of transfer portal, in a day and age where enough money is not enough money? I think that's a big one. And then just the ever-changing landscape in totality, right? Rules change every day. NCAA puts new policy in every day. There's different ways to generate revenue that you can think of every single day. So probably my favorite part about the job is also the biggest challenge, and it's just what's next? How do you predict what's next before next is here? How do you find success, or how do you find that new revenue stream, or how do you keep a great player before it's too late or before everyone else is doing it? That's your advantage. Everyone has the same rules. So how do you think of something ahead of the game?
Right. It's interesting, like to think of like the example we just came up with is how do you predict what's next? Like the people at Wisconsin probably didn't predict to lose to a dude that hasn't touched the ball in probably 365 days. So like, like how do you predict that? How do you plan that? And you don't like, and the budget that High Point has is the budget of Wisconsin. Like, man, like I don't know how you could ever predict that. And it gets me into this question. We talked about this before we started recording, but the Cinderella story, there's been talks like people think that the Cinderella story is sort of fleeting and is leaving us because of NIL, and that years past that most unknown athletes that tend to only shine in the heat of the moment, like you said, shine when they play, and you don't know that they're good until they sign the contract and play. But now they just get paid to play through the NIL, and they go to better schools before that even happens. And so, like, do you think that sort of Cinderella story is true? Do you believe in that sort of thought?
We've got a better chance of consistently having Cinderellas and just simple upsets, right? I wouldn't necessarily call Vanderbilt beating Alabama in football a Cinderella, but that's a huge upset. I do think rev share and NIL has given Vanderbilt the opportunity to close that gap a little bit. are other schools like that. I do think the other side of it, because you're exactly right. So Kentucky basketball, right? I'm just going to make them up. Kentucky basketball is going to take the top 15 players in the country, the best they can possibly get every year. And some of them are going to be freshmen, from McDonald's All-Americans, kind of the whole 9 yards, right? But then you're going to have Jimmer Fredette or whomever, right, go crazy, Steph Curry in the tournament, and they're going to sign him. Well, then all of a sudden that freshman's a sophomore, and he still isn't playing because they brought in Steph over him. Well, so then it's the third year coming. He's like, well, I want to play. So I'm going to drop down to Austin Peay, right? Let's just say. And he's an all conference for us. We win the tournament because of him amongst his teammates. And all of a sudden, Austin Peay's playing Kentucky. And yeah, they've got 5 superstars, but we've got a guy that was previously on their team and a potential superstar, and we might win the game. So I do think the ability to give people the flexibility to come and go will kind of keep that parity in place.
That's interesting. Do you think one of the main challenges that you're facing right now is the state of NIL or the state of the transfer portal specifically, or do you think it's a lot of other things, or do you think it stems from those two things itself?
I think it's a combination of both, right? And I think it's a combination of you can transfer as much as you want without penalty, which is challenging, because you could have someone start at Ole Miss, transfer to Austin Peay, have a good year, and then just go back to Ole Miss or whatever, right? Use whatever example you want to use, whatever school. But at the same time, like, they can just pay a whole bunch more money.
Right.
So
yeah.
So they can buy you away. So that is the biggest challenge. There's ways to get it under control. It's just going to probably take a little bit. It's going to take some figuring out. It's going to take having to put some things in place, and inevitably the NCAA probably getting sued. I mean, it's just that's kind of the nature we're in right now.
Yeah. That's interesting. I was when you're answering that question, a thought popped into my head, like how do you think departments, I guess entice might not be the right word, but like encourage student athletes to stay and not transfer? Because I remember hearing this somewhere, I forgot where, but it was like, I think athletes are now being praised for not transferring, which is really weird because athletes, like, transferring wasn't like a normal thing a while ago, like 5-10 years ago,
right? Like,
yeah, like
it's very recent.
And like I've transferred from one school to another, and it is a logistical nightmare. Like, it's a mess. And so it's really interesting to me how athletes are able to just jump ship so quickly.
Yeah.
And as an athletic director, how do you like sort of manage that? If you have athletes that are like, oh, I want to transfer for this, how do you try to encourage them to want to stay and play for Austin Peay?
Right. I think, the big thing is culture, right? Like, you've got to have a culture where they know that you as a department care about them. You're invested in them as a person, as a player, in their future, their families, the whole 9 yards. And what you can't do is do that starting after they have a good year. Like, that is from the day they step foot on campus. How do you give them a great student athlete experience? How do you give them a great opportunity to be successful? And how do you let them know that you care about them since the day that they arrive? Because if you do it at the end of the year, you do it in the middle of the year, it's too late. It's like, well, you only used me, right? Our opinions is we care about all of our student athletes regardless of the success they have on or off the field. It's about how do we develop them as people. We for sure understand and agree with, yes, we should get graded on our wins and losses and the successes we have here, but we also should be graded on who our student athletes are 5-10 years from now, right? Like, we want them to know we're developing them as people, as spouses, as parents, as members of society. And if I think you do those things well, it may not make it free on you, but you've got the ability to keep people at maybe at a rate that you potentially couldn't pay because they know you believe in them.
Yeah, that's really cool. You mentioned at the beginning of your answer about culture, and I'm curious. This may be an abstract question, but do you think who do you think drives the culture in college sports? Do you think it's you as the athletic director, or do you think it's something or someone else? Like, what is the main sort of driver for culture in an athletic department?
say a lot of the coaches and the student facing support staff really drive it because they're the ones interacting with the student athletes constantly. And then it's up to me and my administrative team to hold the accountability of that culture in place. So yes, I'm going to live and breathe our culture, but I'm in meetings, I'm across campus, I'm out in the community. I may not always be around, but if we can hold strong to the accountability and have everyone else kind of push that culture, then you can really be successful.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I guess sort of going off of that, I was wondering if you could paint us a picture of what the day in the life looks like for you. I'm sure it ebbs and flows with seasons and different sports going on and things like that. But is there a rigid routine that you follow, or is every day different?
Every day is pretty different. There's some meetings that I have set in place, like our senior administrative team, we call our cabinet. We meet every Monday afternoon at 3 o'clock for 1 hour. Just kind of to hash out the previous week and look forward to what's coming up in the next week. I've got bi-weekly meetings with my president. I've got monthly meetings with every single coach. I've got monthly meetings individually with my senior administrative team. But outside of that, it really ebbs and flows. I may have 3 meetings across campus with campus relations sides of things. I may have a day full of donors where I'm meeting and raising money. I may have a day where I'm meeting with 3 coaches or academics team or what have you. Or there may be times where, a situation comes up that we've got to handle. And it's kind of an all hands on deck for that hour or that day or week. And then, of course, I get to go to games. So that looks different every week. We had a lacrosse game at noon yesterday at home. So, yeah, it's the middle of the workday, but how lucky am I that I get to go watch one of our sports compete in 75-degree weather on the middle of a workday.
Right.
So it really just kind of varies.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I think that is one of the main things that drives people to be interested in working in sports is, how cool is it to be able to go to your job and you sit at a lacrosse field and you're like working, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
And you're like, well, yeah, I'm at work. I'm watching lacrosse. Like, this is great. And like, some people are like, what? Like, that's work. I'm like, yeah, like there's some really cool opportunities to be able to be involved with of like working in sports. But the one downside, I was curious if you feel the same way of working in sports. When I was in my undergrad, I was doing an internship with an MLS team in Dallas. And I started to realize the normal 9 to 5 is obviously 9 to 5, but when you work in sports, it's actually flipped on its head because you're working games that people go to when they're off. And so you're working when people are off and you're off when people are working. And so do you feel this sort of put this sort of divide, I guess, of like you're working sort of obscure times because games are at night when people are off. And so you're working when people aren't. Maybe you're not when people are. I'm curious if you think the same way.
I think at the end of the day, we're going to work 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, right? It just kind of, that's kind of our standard day. But last night we hosted a women's NIT game and the game started at 6. So by 4 o'clock, everyone's at the arena, making sure it's set up and good to go. Game finishes at 8. You break down, you do what you need to do. You're home by 9. We've got today's Friday, 8 to 5. We've got a women's lacrosse chalk talk at 5 to 6, and we've got a baseball game from 6 to 9. We'll do that, get home about 10, be good to go. Tomorrow we've got lacrosse, baseball, and softball all at home. So we're going to be, and tennis, senior day. So we're going to be here all day. Sunday, we've got baseball and softball. We'll be here all day. Now, as a leader, I think it's imperative to recognize that and we'll give our staff off on Monday. Like they've worked all weekend. They deserve that. Some people will come in just because they want to get stuff done. But yeah, I mean, yes, we do get to watch sports for a living, right? It's beautiful, but there's a whole lot of sports that you're now required to watch.
Right. Yeah. And I think that might be one of the things maybe some students don't think about, is like, oh, I want to work front office for the Yankees or I want to be an AD, but they're like,
right.
Okay, well, being the AD, you have to show face a lot to almost every event possible. And so doing that, your schedule is going to be a bit wonky,
Yeah.
maybe look a bit different than what you're normally used to. And so it's really interesting. And I wanted to transition to this one question I had that you mentioned this when we first started the podcast, but I just Googled the average age of an AD, and it says it's generally speaking falls between the age of 47 and 55. And so, we both graduated Lindbergh at the same time in 2013. We're about what 15 years away from that bottom number. So I'm curious, do you ever feel like age is an issue being a young AD, and what that experience has been like?
I think it is if you make it one. So, I started as a fundraiser at 22, and I was too young to do that, right? Per se. I think age is but a number. I think experience and effort and energy matter more than anything. I would also argue that the last 5 years of college athletics have been so new and so different that what is 20 years in the business? How much more does that actually provide? Right? I mean, like we're talking about the transfer portal, rev share, and new revenue right now. Well, that's that's all brand new to all of us. So we're learning that. I think it's important for me to have mentors. I love to learn and have different examples and opinions from people that I really trust that have been in the business longer than me. Um, and then I'm in a unique situation where I'm young in my career, but I'm a veteran, so to speak, of Austin Peay. Right? I played a sport here. I've been here. My wife was born and raised here. I've worked here. So there is value in this niche opportunity for me too.
Yeah, that's really cool, and that's awesome, and that transitions me into. I have a couple of more questions, but
Yeah.
that transitions me to ask, where do you think college sports is going? Because the last 5 years you mentioned, like NIL is a Wild West platform
Right.
right now, transfer portal, Wild West. It's like almost, I feel like the transfer portal is like a door to Narnia, like the movie. It's like, it's this, like people see this door and they're like, yeah, you can go in this whole world of transfer, go where you
Yeah.
want, and it's like, freedom. You just go and transfer. And that's sort of what it feels like. It's like this door to Narnia. But
Oh yeah.
I'm curious, the next like 5 to 10 years, do you have any thoughts or theories or anything that comes to mind that might be like the next thing, like the next NIL or like the next transfer portal? Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah. I mean, I think a big one is what does collective bargaining and making student athletes employees look like? Is it just become minor leagues and they don't go to school? Maybe. I don't know. I hope not. Is it a collective bargaining agreement where we have all agreed upon a set bill of rights, so to speak, like you and I talked about offline, that finally determines what the rules are, and there's not a whole lot of lawsuits associated with it. I'm with you in a sense of right now, it's somewhat Narnia or Pandora's box when you enter the portal. Um, so how much further can that go? In my opinion, and I'm sure I'm missing something, right? But like not much further. So how's it getting backed off, and what will that look like? Um, and then I just think the money's going to continue to grow. I think we're in the entertainment business, we're in the premium space business, and we're in a unique opportunity that people are just they love college athletics, and we're so glad they do. So it's just going to continue to drive revenue more and more.
I agree. And one thing you mentioned the collective bargaining agreements and things like that. Um, do you think maybe in the future, the next 5 years, how we said analytics will probably maybe that'll become a new job or new role within a department? Do you think now going forward, more ADs or more individuals working in sports administration will need law degrees? Because if you're looking at CBAs and all of these things, like, do you think a law degree would be beneficial, or do you think that will sort of become any sort of nuance for new students coming in?
I don't think it hurts. Even right now, I don't think it hurts at all, right? I mean, NIL and rev share, there's contracts associated with that. I think that's good to know. We're in contracts with everything football games, basketball games, right? A whole lot of partnerships we have contractually obligated, where a lot of people are fortunate, where I don't think it'll ever necessarily require it. Is, like we have a general counsel for the university that we get to utilize at all times. A lot of bigger schools have general counsels just for their athletics department. So the prevalence of law will continue to grow, but I'm not necessarily sure that uh, administration will have to be indoctrinated in that.
Right. Yeah, it's really interesting. I've always thought like because I've heard that agents are starting to become now more law degrees. They're starting to get law degrees because you need to understand the law of contractual agreements and things like that.
Right.
And so a lot of more college athletes are getting agents, and so now that's going to start to become a thing with NIL and all the stuff, the law that's included with it, and maybe there's a CBA somewhere along the lines with that.
Oh,
So it's just really, really interesting. I think we're in a crazy like Wild West platform right now, which
no
is
doubt.
really cool. Yeah, it's really interesting. I wanted to sort of transition to the final segment of wanted to focus on the current students right now that might be listening that are interested in pursuing a job in administration. So I have a couple of a couple of questions here. The first one is like at a very basic level, I'm curious if you could just explain like what it is specifically that an athletic director does specifically, because I feel like a lot of students have these dreams and like, oh, I want to be AD. And then if we ask them, they're like, well, what is it that an AD does? And I feel like a lot of them would be like, they direct athletics, like, I don't know if like students actually know to the core what it is that you do. And I'm just curious if you could sort of explain that a bit.
Yeah. Um, you've got a really good grasp and big role in setting kind of the strategic direction of the department. I don't necessarily believe in strategic plans. I think that sets things in place too much. But you set the strategic direction of the department, and then you get out of the way. Your job is to facilitate to your people that are experts, not the other way around. So, okay, here's the strategic direction we're going to go. I'm going to facilitate for you in this department in every way I can, and then just let them go. So most of my meetings and discussions and calls are about facilitating to the department, whether it's to raise money for a certain sport or whether it's to go across campus to help our academic staff, whatever it may be. A lot of my job is here's our strategic direction. Now you guys tell me how to get there and what you need from me.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Do you think then maybe in the future ADs or current ADs, do you think there should be some form of leadership training, like maybe before you get hired, or do you think like in school right now, if you want to major in sports administration, do you think leadership is like one of the most imperative aspects of being an athletic director?
I think it's imperative for life, honestly. Like if you can have relationships with people, if you can understand how people work and operate, if you can accept the fact that no person is the same as another and what makes them tick is different, like the hardest yet most rewarding part about probably any leadership role is people. If you can get your people to go, then the rest will take care of itself. We say all the time, we don't hire people for roles. We hire people for fit. Like we want the intangibles of great integrity, really hardworking, passionate for student athletes, invested in their career and the growth of the department. If they have those, I can teach them how to sell tickets or be in compliance or support academics. Like we want people.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I'm curious if you could, if we had like a student in this call right now who wants to be an athletic director one day, what is it that you would share with them to help them achieve that dream? Is there anything specific that you would share?
I think two things. One, get involved and just work. It may not be the most glamorous position to start, but most athletics departments, regardless of size, budget, what have you, are understaffed in a sense. And you're going to have the ability, if you take advantage of it, to leave your mark and catch people's attention. So get an opportunity and just go to work and fill in and support where you can, and it will be noticed and it will make a difference. And then, secondly, what I've learned, and I can't speak 100%, but this is a very supportive industry. So if you reach out, like if there's someone listening to this call, email me. Like I would love to talk through what my day looks like, or answer any questions you may have, or just what it looks like. And I can speak for a lot of my counterparts; they would do the same thing. It's a very supportive, like I said, industry. So don't be afraid to reach out, build relationships, get connections. And when you get an opportunity, just go to work.
Yeah, that's cool. I love that. Do you think, not Austin Peay specifically, just higher ed and college in general, do you think your degree, your education helped prepare you more, or do you think your experience helped prepare you more?
I think both for different reasons, right? I think especially as a former student athlete, like the discipline, the timeliness, the effort, the attention to detail in the book knowledge really has prepared me. But at the same time, like you don't learn until you do something. So, I learned a lot in college as I went through it. But then when I got put in situations where you either had to sink or swim or figure something out, like you grow a lot there too.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. And that sort of ends the questions that I had for you. I'm really grateful that you were able to come on and share your experiences and highlight some of the beauties and nuances of being an athletic director. And I hope everybody out there enjoyed the episode. And much like you said, don't be afraid. People, don't be afraid to reach out to people. And I think that's very important. Like you said, is I do believe in the phenomenon of cold calling or like cold emailing in today's day and age, where I would email just random people and be like, "Hey, my name's Nathan. I'm interested. Do you want to talk?" And one thing that I agree with you, like in the sports industry, people are very nice. And also one thing I've also noticed is everybody knows everybody. Like, because the
7 degrees of separation, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like it's really wild that when you really think down to it, somebody's going to know somebody's going to recognize a name, and someone will know. And so the industry is small. The world is theoretically small. So just getting your name out there, I think, helps. And now people will have that sort of in. So I think that's beautiful and a wonderful thing to sort of think about. Hopefully people out there get encouraged to reach out and talk to you and ask you about your story. So thank you for sharing your story, and I hope everybody out there enjoyed it, and hope you stay tuned for the next episode. So Jordan, thank you so much for joining for this episode. Hopefully I can reach out sometime in the next maybe 5 years, and we could do a follow-up episode. Maybe some of the things you said will be drastically different. Maybe we'll look at the CBA projection that you had. Maybe it will be right or wrong. I'd love to sort of test that theory. That'd be cool.
Oh, absolutely. That'd be awesome. There's a good chance I'm probably going to be wrong on all of this, but nonetheless, I really enjoyed this. I really appreciate you having me on. And as you mentioned, anyone out there listening, please reach out. Like it's how we all get started. I would absolutely love to. Enjoyed this today. So thank you, Nathan.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.